I think in the hearings that we'll be conducting, the Senate, certainly we in the minority, will be why hasn't government filed formal complaints against China? Malinaw naman na doon sa common fishing grounds of the Philippines, Vietnam, and China, even while disputes about conflicting claims are still being resolved. Part of that dispute has been settled by the arbitral ruling. At yung iba ay pati sinasabi common fishing grounds yan. Our Philippine Coast Guard is not preventing Chinese or Vietnamese fishers from using the common fishing grounds. Bakit pinipigilan ng Chinese Coast Guard yung mga maliliit na mangingisda natin makapangisda, makapaghanap buhay doon? Why are armed Chinese Coast Guards boarding Philippine small fishing craft and forcibly taking their catch? Nagbo-board sila armado. Pinipili nila at kinukuha yung pinakamagandang huli ng mga mangingisda natin. Di umano, binibigyan nila ng noodles, ano ba yun, sigarilyo at saka tubig. But is that proper trade relations between the peoples of two countries? Sa pilitang binoboard, armado pa yung kabila, tapos kinukuha yung huli ng walang paumanhin. And why have we not filed formal complaints? Those are violations of the rights of our small fisher folk. Dagdag pa, in other areas of the West Philippine Sea, China has continued to militarize our parts of our territory. There, sinisira nila yung mga natural resources natin. So where are the clear diplomatic protests and other actions by our Foreign Affairs Department? Kaya naghain kami ng resolution on the part of the minority precisely because the actions of the executive have been sorely lacking and in fact almost completely absent. Well, I think, Ms. Ruth, with all due respect sa ating mga kababaeng mangingisda na nandun sa Malacanang Presscon, alam naman tayo mga Pilipino, grasyoso, ang hirap naman na dinala sila dun sa Malacanang, yung pinaka-official residence ng ating bansa. Hinost sila ng presidential spokesman at halos siya yung nagpapadaloy ng Presscon nila. Medyo mahirap naman sila magsabi ng sama ng loob, di ba? Or magreklamo. I think they were placed, it was unfair of Malacanang to place them in that situation. It was a power play. Ang hirap namang ay mga mangingisda ay kontrahin yung sinasabi ng alter ego ng presidente dun mismo sa official resident ng presidente. I think just as much as that press con set up by the presidential spokesman, we should look at the actual videos of the fishermen being boarded in their small fishing craft by those armed Chinese Coast Guard who took their catch without their permission, without their invitation to so-called barter trade with them and exchange their precious catch for consumer items. So these are the things that we will be examining in the Senate inquiry bilang isa sa maraming piraso ng parang puzzle na lang, Ms. Ruth, parang isang misteryo kung ano na ba talaga ang kabuang polisiya ng ating gobyerno sa bansang China. What is our foreign policy strategy in dealing with this regional power, this emerging global power? At para malamanan na rin natin once and for all yung sinasabi ni Presidente from the start na he would champion daw an independent foreign policy. What exactly does that mean? Because it has not been given flesh and face and voice to until now, most glaringly in this case of inaction, opaqueness, and seeming docility in the face of Chinese aggression in the West Philippine Sea. I'm sorry, Ms. Ruth, I missed that. It would be great, Ms. Ruth, if China would apologize. I can't imagine how that might happen, but that would be a wonderful miracle. But the Senate will continue to do our duty to exercise oversight on what should be a clearly articulated foreign policy of the government. In the meantime, habang tinutuloy pa rin ng China yung ganitong mga aksyon and no apology or corrective action on their part is forthcoming. In fact, as Acting Chief Justice Antonio Carpio has said repeatedly, and he was our keynote speaker at the Kasarinlangan Foreign Policy Forum yesterday, our country could actually file a complaint even even at the Hague Tribunal and in other international fora to push for the code of conduct in the South China Sea, to push for agreements on our conduct with Philippines, China, and Vietnam in the common fishing grounds. So there's a lot of room for diplomacy. Hindi ang pagpipilian lamang tulad ng sinasabi ng gobyerno ay pananahimik lamang, pagiging kimik lamang, o manggera. Nobody is calling for war on our part. And I don't think, some of our resource persons yesterday very sharply said it wouldn't be that easy for China to go to war either. At siguradong on our side, the Philippines, ang sinasabi nating laban, pushback, is diplomatic and political. And we have the most powerful weapon so far. Ms. Ruth, our speakers yesterday were emphatic that our victory at The Hague is the most important legal decision so far under the UNCLOS, the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. It dramatically increased what is called the global commons in the oceans by saying itong mga karagatang ito are a common patrimony of all humankind, of all peoples, especially as far as the West Philippine Sea and the South China Sea is concerned. Here in our region, it is the common patrimony, common fishing ground, common energy source of many member nations to the UNCLOS and many residents and claimants here in the West Philippine Sea and in the South China Sea. So, ang laki ng espasyo dapat for cooperative, at the same time assertive, in each of our national interests, and peaceful coexistence in the region based on the rule of law. Unang-una na ang UNCLOS and ang kani-kanyang konstitusyon. Yes, Ms. Ruth, we in Akabayan and we are coalition partners with the Liberal Party, with the Magda Law Party, and I believe majority senators also would share our concern that these attacks against now local government officials on the heels of thousands of suspected small-time drug users, on the heels of the killings of 3 Catholic priests and an attack on a 4th, are part and parcel of an atmosphere, an environment of violence and impunity, which unfortunately has been largely engendered by the violent statements of the president, promises of violence on his part, threats to kill members of different sectors of society. Mga atake talaga ito sa demokrasya, Ms. Ruth, particularly in the case of the killings of local government officials. We could ask if even they are not safe, all the more hindi ligtas ang mga ordinaryong mamamayan. Those are signs of a breakdown in proper ensuring of public safety, law enforcement, and scarily, some sectors are starting to express the apprehension that, especially with the unbelievable, preposterous accusation of Malacanang that these killings of the local government officials are a setup to discredit the president. Oh my God, parang throwback, hindi pa pala Thursday ngayon, no? Tuesday pa lamang, pero throwback to the martial law playbook of the former dictator Marcos in the 1970s. Bagamat mas mahigpit na ngayon ang ating 1987 Constitution that only rebellion and invasion may constitute grounds for the declaration of martial law, pero sa pinapakitang gawi ng administrasyon, what is to stop them from painting these attacks, these very suspicious killings of local government officials as part of a so-called rebellion? Inaakusa nila sa oposisyon at para bigyan ng excuse magdeklara ng martial law. So this violence is a very disturbing occurrence in itself, as an attack on human beings, citizens, local officials, at they serve to more and more of us as warning signs of a creeping manipulation of events to fit a certain narrative, to fit a certain trajectory. So all the more, Ms. Ruth, dapat maging alisto tayo, kalma pero tuloy-tuloy na nag-aanalisa, and we must engage government from different sectors, civil society, even the private sector, to arrest this decline in, I would say, the quality of life and the quality of our democracy. It's an aside, but with reference to the private sector, for example, the recent presentation of UP School of Economics Professor Emmanuel de Dios, the insulted economy. Very, very interesting that despite sound fundamentals from the previous years, there's really a strain on our economy emanating from the political side of our national situation, the unbridled power, the uninhibited use of power with less and less checks and balances, deliberately weakened separate and co-equal branches of government, this unbridled exercise of power by the executive. Well, nobody wanted to, but the president keeps on from time to time wondering aloud about it. So I refuse to accept yung sinasabi nila na not to take him seriously or to take him with a grain of salt. For God's sake, he's our president. We should be able to believe what our highest elected public official is saying, na yung talaga ang iniisip niya or damdamin niya, yung talaga ang sinasabi niya. And as I mentioned earlier, every word from the mouth of the president assumes the nature of policy. So if he keeps from time to time wondering aloud about martial law, we should pay attention. And kailangan magsalita, kailangan kumilos tayo, bearing out, for example, what the surveys in previous quarters have shown, that the majority of respondents, the majority of Filipinos, believe that martial law is not the solution to our problems. And I would wholeheartedly agree with that, Ms. Ruth. It's not martial law or so-called revolutionary government that is the solution to our problems. It is using our democratic muscles, democratic institutions and mechanisms to strengthen our democracy, our economy as well, as a country.